special time of year in our corner of the world. ANZAC Day, a day of great significance in Australia and New Zealand.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening or welcome into the breakdown. Great to have you joining us tonight alongside Jeff Wilson, Taylor Johnson, and we've got fresh blood in the house. I know it's not his first time on Sky Sport and it certainly will not be his last. He's been here before on Reunion, but never on the breakdown. Morgan Turinui, great to have you back in New Zealand.
It's good to be back. It's an updated set too. It's spent some money.
How do we compare to Stan Sport?
Our Stan's pretty good.
I feel like they're pretty even.
I know where my bread's buttered, don't worry.
50-50. Hey, does it feel like a homecoming of sorts to come back here, ANZAC weekend? How was your weekend?
Oh, it's been great. Obviously, some of the rugby we saw was absolutely outstanding. Loved that Hurricanes win in Canberra as well.
Did you? You actually enjoyed it?
No, just because of what it did to the season and the table, everyone's machinations now around the ladder, it just opens Super Rugby up.
We were together at the Carver Bowl yesterday as well, and that was fantastic at North Harbour Stadium. I mean, how good. I actually saw the fans mixing Carver. Adi Savea was given some Carver straight on full time. But the greatest thing about it was that the Drua fans and the Moana fans were just cheering for each other. You know, every time someone scored, they were like, this is the best of the Pacific.
Did you two have any of the Carver that was on offer?
Maybe a little. Maybe a little.
It took me a long time to get to my car, put it that way, after the game.
I thought that's what you meant. I thought you meant you were actually at the Carver Bowl having some. Look, I'm hurting from Dunedin. I'm really hurting.
The sprinklers weren't on, Jeff.
The sprinklers went on and the Crusaders were just awesome. They were. They were the Crusaders of old. And we just had to suck it up and take it down in Dunedin. And I'll tell you what, I think that the competition has been put on notice in the last couple of weeks.
That one's got to hurt.
Yeah.
That one's got to hurt. OK, let's find out what's coming up on the program. Morgan Turinui is in studio and wants an ANZAC test. Are our Trans-Tasman ties close enough? For the All Blacks hookers, and we celebrate the tries that weren't tries. Time now for Pick and Go. What is getting you fired up after the week that was? Morgs, fresh meat, you are first.
Yeah, mine's a bit of a story. So I woke up game day morning in the lovely The Mount. It was pretty good. You were
Greatest
right about
place
how
on
good a
earth.
spot it was. A bit popular now, too many people. But I jumped out of bed quite late, wanted to head down to the dawn service. I thought I'd jump in the car and just cruise down to the beachfront at the Cenotaph. It was gridlock on the main road. There was people walking down. So I wandered down with everyone. There was a couple of thousand people at the dawn service. And a couple of minutes in, they're playing the Australian national anthem. I think James Stannard, the Western Force coach, and I were the only ones singing it. But it was a bit of an epiphany for me about how important a day it is and how great it is that we can celebrate the connection between our two countries. I spent a lot of the time of the day reflecting on what that meant to us. I know, 13 All Blacks lost their lives in World War I. There were 10 Wallabies as well. I think in 1913, the Wallabies beat the All Blacks for the first time in New Zealand. Within 5 years, 6 of those guys had passed away. And so there's this wonderful story and great amount of stories in history to celebrate. And I know we've talked about this ANZAC test, and I think it hit home to me. That's why we should be doing it. I think it's a great idea. I know in our game, especially in Australia and New Zealand, we say no a lot to things where we resist change. This is one where I think we should say yes, we should do it, and then we can work out what it means. The game would be great. In Australia especially, there's a big AFL game in Melbourne, there's a big rugby league game in Sydney. There are other cities that would be great to host it. We can do it 1-for-1. I think you can make it a family-friendly time when the games are Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Don't forget that we've been lucky this weekend with ANZAC because it's near the weekend. It doesn't always fit. When ANZAC Day's on a Wednesday, some of those games aren't happening then. I think this is a standalone. You can treat it like state of origin, give the players the week off the week before. Some players, I'd love to see Artie Savea, and I bet you he would do it. He would play on a Wednesday in an ANZAC test, and he'd want to back up for Moana on the Saturday, for example, in a spectacle like this.
Not everyone said no. The Australians said yes. It was New Zealand rugby saying no, right? How annoyed did people on that side of the ditch get?
I'm not annoyed. I think we understand from a high performance perspective. Lots of the super teams went, oh, we don't want to lose our players for 2 weeks, but I think we'll make money out of it. It will be great for our game. It'll be a great standalone test match. The story of rugby union, whereas war breaks out in Australia and rugby stops straight away. You know, hundreds and hundreds of rugby players in Australia put their hand up to go fight for their country. It's a story that we can tell, and the test match will be great, and it'll be packed out in Australia, I guarantee.
I know that this wasn't taken up for financial reasons. It didn't make sense for New Zealand rugby. I spoke to Mark Robinson about this, and from my perspective, it runs a bit deeper in terms of our partnership. I think in regards to this part of the world, for our game to grow in Australasia, the biggest market and opportunity is in Australia. In New Zealand, it's almost like we're a little bit tapped out. I mean, we've explored everything we possibly can here. We need to grow the game in Australia. And the fact your market's so competitive in other games, to me, it's our relationship with Australia. It needs to be, I think, more harmonious. It needs to be a little bit more give and take. We should be working really closely to continue to grow and create spectacles, create opportunities. And I think that's where I'd like to see our game be a little bit more flexible.
Even from a high performance lens, though, like how good is it if we had a mid-season test match? Because we're always debating people's forms, and maybe it's like, let's actually see who is in form and can they perform in that black jersey or a gold jersey? Because we're always debating, is someone in form or out of form? I think from every facet, the way you look at it, from the history, from the commercials, and then from a high performance lens, I actually do think we should have this test.
And I reckon Australian rugby's already made sacrifices.
Yeah.
We've supported them. And a lot of that talk is around the financial side of the game. I'm not talking about the financials. I'm talking about the fact that Australian rugby made a sacrifice, dropped a team down to make them more competitive. What have we seen this year? More competitive. This competition is better as a result of that. Australian rugby knows what they've got in terms of the British and Irish Lions, and then a Rugby World Cup. This is the time we need to strike as a group, as a team. The fact we're working hard with Moana Pacifica, we're working hard with the Fijian Drua to grow our game. I think we need to be a lot more collaborative, and it's a partnership. This is not one dominating the other. Yep. It's everyone working together.
Yeah.
Okay, you're next. Pick and go, please, Jeff.
Look, there's a lot of chat, and there has been for a long time around the concussions in rugby and the collisions. And for a long time, we spent a lot of our game working out how we look at the scrum, for example, and how we've reduced those impacts there. All of a sudden, I look at the last 5 metres on a rugby field, and a lot of the laws in and around the game all of a sudden are discarded. The fact that we're actually encouraging contacts that are almost head-to-head. The fact you're driving people low into the ground, the defence is trying to protect their line, and we're allowing this last couple of metres to all of a sudden you're throwing away the law book, the fact that the way that tackling is meant to be done. Now, I get it, you're defending your line. But in terms of promoting and protecting players, I don't think we're doing a good enough job. The fact that if you concede territory and concede possession and you concede that ground, it should be, in my view, the last 2 metres should not be different to the other 98. 100%. And we should not be in a situation where players can drop all technique and launch themselves like torpedoes into contact head first.
And that's the thing, is that they're training people to do that because they know there's no way to stop it other than to infringe. And yes, the referees aren't picking it up. Only sometimes they are, and it's once in a blue moon. But you're right, we're spending millions of dollars on all these tests around concussions and different areas of the game. Even at the junior levels, we're dropping tackle heights below the sternum. But as you said, even at that lower level as well, at the high level, that same thing is happening constantly. And it's tough because when you're getting taught dive and slide over, you cannot get under there unless you dive on top of the player, and that's illegal as well.
Yeah, I suppose the next step then is you've identified a great problem. What's the solution?
Exactly.
The simple solution I can find is instead of your front foot having to be behind the line, you put a player's back foot behind the line, and it makes it less attractive to be diving low. Like you saw the Hunter Paisami tackle where he gets suspended. He doesn't do anything illegal, really, but how else does he stop a try? I think maybe if we can bring the defence a step off the line, it becomes less attractive to dive. Perhaps they can look at that.
I think we have to explore this, though, because we're getting to a point, like you say, the example is, it's pure and simply, you're putting your head down, you're unprotected, the defence is going, well, the only way I can do that quite often, it could be a swinging arm, it's putting their own head in this vulnerable position. And like I say, when that's the example that others will follow in our community game, and our community game has reduced the tackle height. We've done that, we've brought it down below the nipple line, we've done all of that. But for me, you get to this point and all of a sudden the rules change. You know, they've focused on the chop tackling a little bit more, a little bit further out. I just think for me, if we're going to take these type of collisions seriously, some thought needs to be looked into this. Yep, I know it might result in some tries being scored a little bit easier. I get that. Or don't infringe and be better further up the field defensively. That's just my
It's a great pick and go this week.
My
Taylor, for you?
For me, pick and go. The Super Rugby teams, they must take more games to the regions. We saw how successful it was at the Bay Oval. You're going to harp on about that for years to come because we want to see more games there. Yeah. Until you get more, exactly. You think of the Hurricanes and the Drua in Napier as well, even a couple of years ago when the Chiefs took that Reds game to Taranaki. The crowds are there and they're longing for it. And we have to remember, you're a region, right? Like the Blues, they hate every time you say Auckland Blues. They're like, no, we're just the Blues because we're everyone. Well, you only played one game in Whangarei, so you're not just the, you are the Auckland Blues because you're not moving elsewhere. And I think that's really important that we have to touch base with those people. I think of the NPC, the best crowds we saw were in the Taranaki, we're in the Bay of Plenty, we're in Invercargill. I absolutely love doing games in Southland because they pack that stadium out and the infrastructure is there. When you look at the average crowd attendance in New Zealand, it is around 15,000. A lot of those provincial stadiums can fit that. Even the Heartland teams. I mean, take a game to Ormeru Crusaders. Let's all, Heartlanders, let's do something. Let's actually go and visit these places because I think they're going to come. You look at the NPC, Auckland, Wellington, hardly any people are coming to those games and it's because there's an oversaturated market. Why would you go to Auckland games and get a season pass and you can get a Blues game and see all the best players?
I agree because all of a sudden what we've seen, the way we consume the game has changed significantly. The fact more people are now watching on television, less appetite to actually go to the game. Yeah. And that in terms of those revenue streams and a lot of the clubs under pressure financially, they think we've got to stay in the biggest stadium. Yeah. Well, there's costs that come associated with that and then all of a sudden you get adverse weather and then you get maybe a matchup that's not as appealing as some other matchups and you don't get the crowd where it could quite easily have played somewhere else. So I think in New Zealand it works more because I'm not sure it works in Australia so much, but your populations are so significantly different and bigger.
Yeah, I think very much Australian Super Rugby teams are tied to their stadium deals especially. Yep. The Waratahs went to places like Leichhardt Oval when Allianz Stadium was knocked down. It actually worked really well. They had some great matches with outstanding crowds. The intimacy, as we saw the other night in the Mount, was significant for young kids going to... It just feels a bit closer to things. The Reds have been to Townsville for a game. That went well, but I think it's very much a New Zealand thing. And I would say... when you go to Queenstown for a game, I'll come over again.
Have you ever been on a scaffold, temporary scaffold for a commentary game?
Done that a few times. Yeah, I have done it. Yeah, we've all come up through the humble ranks. Yeah, it was good, yeah.
And we're hearing that there will be another one or potentially two matches in Tauranga, so you will not have to wait 12 years like the last time between drinks for Super Rugby matches back in Mount Maunganui.
Got the essentials here today, 3 umbrellas, deck chair.
We've been waiting for so long for this, it's amazing.
Seriously, they need to do this more often. It's awesome that the game has come to Tauranga.
I mean, like Bay Park's pretty dead, but this stadium is starting to pick up. We just need to get some grandstands in there, then maybe we get some All Blacks matches. Ah! Up the Chiefs!
Honestly, amazing, like having it so close to home. We're from the Mount Maunganui RSA. It's all about the Chiefs. But we do want to welcome the Force here as well.
Samasoni,
Yeah, he's amazing.
Unit.
I just want to congratulate him. Like it's his 100th game. Like that's big dog work. Like yeah.
Best number 2 on the planet.
He is the man. Best number 2 in New Zealand right now.
We are talking about the biggest bloody Islander in the Chiefs team, Samasoni.
Didn't you put $2 on him, Uncle?
I put $2 on him to get a try.
Oh, I think it's special. He's someone who's a Chiefs man through and through, and to see him scoring with 100, it's pretty awesome.
Well done, son. Keep it up, mate. 100 games. Awesome achievement, bro.
Yo, what's up, my dog, Samasoni? Massive congrats, bro. Hell of a game. Good to see you down in the corner there. Ofalayatu, and yeah, many more to come.
Such a beautiful moment seeing Samasoni Tokiaho recognised as the 12th Chiefs Centurion over the weekend. This man has grown so much since making his debut in Super Rugby in 2017, Taylor.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's grown as a person as well, and his playing style, I mean, he's thrived under Clayton McMillan, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they've got a really good, healthy competition there in the Chiefs as well, with Bradley Slater, Brodie McCusker. You know, they're fighting for those starting spots, and we have actually seen him come off the bench since he's come back from injury, and he's been influential in that period too.
Is it too far-reaching to say hookers in New Zealand right now are like the coolest thing ever, Jeff?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt Cody Taylor's over and above.
Cool.
Yeah, but Samasoni, for me, the fact that we needed to see that, I needed to see that, and the way that he's playing, he had a quiet year last year, and injuries have been a problem. That's the Samasoni Taukei'aho of old. That's what we got to see when he first came in, and that's what we loved. And I think he maybe, whether he lost a little bit of his confidence around the ball carry, made a few errors, and then he got conservative, whereas now he's going, well, actually, I'm in a competition, I can't settle, I have to do this every week. If we see this, it's something special. It's how the people on high want to use him, for me, Morgs. But at hooker, Asafa Amua, I mean, we've got depth. We've got players, you know, Kurt Eklund's floating around. Obviously, Ioane Moananu in Christchurch has made a big impact. I like what we've got.
Who's your starting hooker
Cody
for the
Taylor.
All Blacks, and who's on the bench?
That's always up for debate.
Who is it for
I reckon
you?
these Amua and Taukei'aho have got 6 weeks to put their hand up and say it's me.
Cody Taylor is that far in front as a hooker. I'd love you not to pick him. He's that good. So please don't pick him. He's exactly. I don't know about hookers being cool. That might be a stretch, but he's exactly what you want from a hooker because he balances every demand in the game. You've got to be a bit of a back row around the park. You've got to be able to play tight and wide, and you must get your core role right, which is line out throwing and scrum time. If you get that right, and that's the Samasoni Taukei'aho evolution, was this great young kid that came in, he was a wrecking ball, and he improved the core role of being a hooker, and that's why he's got to be picked in an All Black squad.
The hooking position is one that I'm not worried about whatsoever when it comes to the All Blacks, because I think we've got depth, massive depth there, and I think, you mentioned Moananu, man, he has been so exciting to watch. He's what?
Is he a smoky?
Oh, I just love watching everything that he does. Like he can. We saw his chip and chase. He actually collected it. You know, we talk about.
Probably is, but who do you leave out? If you're going to pick 3 hookers, you've got to go. Okay.
He doesn't make my All Black squad now, but he's for sure one for the future. He's only young. You know.
Yeah, let's not put
Maybe
the pressure on that.
No, he's only
just
young.
let him play.
He's only young,
let him sit behind Cody. Let him learn. Bring his own energy when he comes on.
TV,
I mean, and I'll tell you what's nice. You know what's nice? He's got a couple of All Black props either side of him as well. That's a great play to develop.
Best place for him to learn is there.
Absolutely.
Off Cody Taylor, and you got All Blacks either side of you.
He's throwing to Scott Barrett up in the target. I mean, he's got a lot of things he can learn right now. Let's just let him go. Let's let him grow.
Okay, well, you mentioned Kurt Eklund. How far away is Kurt Eklund from being in this conversation
It's nice
with
to have
these
this,
top 3?
It's nice to have the sort of insurance. The guys that are sitting in behind, and Ricky Riccitelli's not on this list because he's heading offshore. Well, Kurt Eklund's a very similar type player. You talk about core role. You know what you're going to get. It's nice to have sitting in the background if an injury happens. And you talk about luxury. All of a sudden, you want someone who comes to training and understands their role, can support the players around them, knows where they sit, but you can trust them. You can have belief in them, like what he's done so far.
Yeah, if Taylor gets injured, then that's where you bring an Eklund. You don't go to a Moananu probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because you know, if you want 60 minutes out of him in Argentina, that's a guy that can get his role right.
You mentioned Ricky Riccitelli, though. He's off overseas because we didn't offer him anything. You know, that's the issue there. And I think 2 years ago, he was probably one of the most prime hookers in Super Rugby, and even his NPC season was outstanding last year, and he didn't even get a call up into any of the Black jerseys.
Yeah, it was strange. It was odd. I mean, I couldn't understand those selections. It's been hard for him, though, because there's been 3 that have sort of been clearly above him, and he doesn't. I suppose there's not really a point of difference in regards to having him on the bench when you look at like Amua, right? And Asafa had a really good year last year.
What's his point of difference?
Asafa Amua, you put the ball in his arm and good luck. I mean, that's ultimately what Samasoni does as well, and you like to have that impact. But for Asafa, what we saw last year, though, was all of a sudden Taylor and his line-out throwing got better. It developed. He got that accuracy. There was that. Still, you're coming in a tight test match against, let's be honest, it's the Springboks, it's France, it's England, these teams that have got great locks and great competitors who can get up. If you can't hit your mark, then all of a sudden your spot comes under pressure. He does all the other things in and around the game, dynamic, but that's the core role. If you can't hit your mark, you're not going to play.
Tell you what, every hooker on both sides of the ditch will be offended that it's not a cool position for you, Morgs.
The try scorers, anyway, I'll give him that.
Try scorers, I tell you what, when you're talking about tries, we saw one of the greatest chip and chases on the weekend by an individual, Ardie Savea, but there was a man who used to do a thing or two himself. Here we go, he's an ode to Jeff Wilson.
And off the back, away for Marshall. Away from Cullen to Wilson to show his pace. Now he can kick and chase. He leads the charge. Oh, Jeff Wilson, superb. Absolutely brilliant.
Has this man got skills or what? The speed of the man is unbelievable. And a great little controlled chip kick. And it sits up beautifully for him. Look at, he's got yards on them. The skills of the man are immense.
Savia puts a little kick over the top for himself. Marty Savia! Oh, what have we just seen?
Well, they're checking something too. They can't take it off him, can they? He's a chip and chase genius.
And then this would be normally a penalty.
Can I just have a little bit of space? No, it will be a no try, and let me explain, because it has knocked it on.
Oh, and the big swan dive to finish. It was ludicrous that try could be taken off Ardie Savia. I reckon he watched your highlights growing up and said, I want to do that in a game.
Knock on to knock on. Knock on to knock on. It was a remarkable piece of skill. Once again, though, I've been talked about it all season. Ardie Savia in the outside channels, not through the middle of the park. He is a ball player. He's skillful. He's got creativity. Don't make him go through the middle of the park. Morgs, get him out in the spaces and use this sort of skill.
Oh, and out there, because you can find the one-on-ones. You can cope with him when you've got high-density defenders at second, third, fourth defender. Here, he is a dominant voice. He's a dominant force. He's give me the ball. It's just that kid that's a superstar at 10 who's too good for everyone, but he's doing it at Super Rugby level.
The noise was deafening. I was sidelined and I could not hear myself thinking. It wasn't just Moana fans, it was Drua fans too, because when you can pay $10 to go and watch the best player in the world play, I mean, everyone's loving it.
And he was the best player of the year last year, but he is still the best player in the world right now, isn't he, Morgs? Can you argue with that?
No, he's the best. And also, because it means so much in playing for Moana, I think he's gone to another level. I'd almost credit it with the amount of strapping he has on him already. He's just going into blackness almost in terms of the lack of fuel he has at the end of a match. You know that he's doing four people's job. When he's there, people play better around him. It's one of the best signings in the history of Super Rugby.
And one of the nicest things too at the end of that game was to see him and Jules embrace. Yeah. They were just absolutely so stoked to be playing for a team that represents their people. They've played at the highest level together, so to be able to put that jersey on was so special.
The reality is, he's a lock right now to win Super Rugby Player of the Year. I mean, it's he's just got to.
But he deserves to, right?
Oh, he's the best player. He's the best player out there, most influential player, and that's on and off the field. And you've seen that. And sometimes there are special players like that, and what he's doing for them is remarkable.
Okay, well, that should be the ASB National Try of the Year, but it won't be because it was disallowed. So we went back through the archives and looked at the tries that weren't.
Shifts it on out wide at Turinui, roaming in the wide channels. Turinui in space. Back in field to his brother. Enrico Ioane. Well, the Highlanders off the hook here by the looks of it with the forward pass.
This whole piece of play being played with the touch judges flag up. Fox running wide. And Fox has scored a try. And the touch judges flag is still up. Oh, he's there. It's disallowed.
Now there's a chance for the All Blacks. They're lined out here to the left. There's so many of them. And it's going to be Ioane. And the All Blacks score just before half-time.
He's lost it. He's not in control of that.
No try.
No try. Looking for some more runners and finds Moanga, who puts Leonard Brown into a gap. Now there's a chance for Ioane. Slings a wild pass, beautifully pulled in. Now Retallick. Retallick to Havili. Away it goes for Savia. Now Reese. Oh, what a try that is. Seven Reese.
That's marginal.
So one of the great tries becomes a non-try. There it is again for Smith. Savia, Bodenbarrett. Moanga this time does slip a tackle. Looks to get on the outside. Richie Moanga! Beautiful! Aaron Smith scores! Oh, what a try that is!
It's a no try, but he's played on.
I feel like that one should have come with a warning. I wish you came to us 5 seconds earlier because Jeff had his hands in his head just like he did 2 years ago at the Rugby World Cup final. That was triggering.
Let it go.
That was triggering. I let it go. Okay, the Rieko Ioane try. Did you take any pleasure in watching that Rieko Ioane try that he didn't put down? Because up until that moment, that was a fantastic try.
That was even I would have appreciated just seeing that being scored a try. But it's just a couple of the forward passes they picked up on your tries over the years. There's a longer list, surely. I did assume that it would have just been.
This is his only show of the breakdown.
He's taken him 25 minutes to have a crack. So thanks very much. Appreciate it.
I did assume it would just be 5 replays then of that last try.
It's too triggering for us. It is far too triggering for us. Let's talk about our players of the weekend, round 11 of Super Rugby. We're going to start off with you, Morgs, because you're going to bring an Australian flavour for the first time this year, I must say. You can call the other hosts on the show out.
Yeah.
Who stood out to you?
Well, I thought Tom Liner was outstanding. Not just the way he scored a couple of tries, especially one early, just put his head down and just dove for the line, took control, said to the forwards, this is how you do it, boys. And then he backed up and laid on a couple as well. I thought he controlled things very well as well around the park, dominated where the game was played. This is a Blues team could easily be much closer to the Reds side. Obviously had those tries disallowed. I just thought it was a very mature performance from a guy who needed to step up at home and really solidify that jersey.
All right, is he a Wallaby 10?
He's probably the Wallaby 10 if he picked it now. Yeah, but there is what the great thing is that we can wait till the end of the season. If he takes the Reds to a final as their starting 10, well, then it's an easy pick. If Noah Lolosio, for example, the Brumbies dust themselves off after this week and they make a final, well, then his stock goes up. The great thing now is we don't have to pick the team right
Yeah,
now.
his game management was so good. You know, there's up and unders to Zahn Sullivan, and he failed the test, Zahn, in that one, and Liner knew what to do. So I think his game management was excellent, and he enabled his outsides and also his forward pack to really dominate. Yeah, good game driver.
Jeff, for you, who stood out?
Oh, he played one test for the All Blacks last year and wasn't seen again, and that's Billy Proctor. And he's had a second game for the Hurricanes after a long delay through injury. Came off the bench last week. Now, this was the Billy Proctor that the Hurricanes were missing, and he was very, very good. And they've admitted they missed him. And what you started to see was his impact on both sides of the ball, whether it's carrying, whether it's clean out, whether it's his defence, whether his ability in the outside channel. I like the way they used him. He's got good footwork. He's a different type of centre. It's just whether or not that's what they're looking at the next level. But for him to make a statement and a mark and that sort of accuracy, really like what I saw. If he continues to do that and build on that, to me, it's a great start of his season.
Morgs, do you like Billy Proctor? Does he pass the eye test for you?
No, I think he's a gun, and style is the only reason he hasn't played more tests. I would have thought how he fits into an All Black team. I think it's very much been the Cam Roigard show at the Hurricanes. Everything good from them has been around him. Proctor just gives them a different element out wide. He frees up the back three because he can play out on an edge as well. I think he's great for the whole collective at the Canes, and watch them roar back into it.
Oh, when you're talking about a black jersey too, his combination already is tried and tested with Geordie Barrett. So I think...
So Geordie and Billy Proctor, you're starting 12 and 13.
Well, there must be something going on there, though, for us not to have seen him more last year. I was surprised that we didn't see him in another couple of test matches for the All Blacks.
His baby came, remember?
I know, it came late in the season.
But he never went back over.
Yeah, but earlier on, I thought there was plenty of chances to see him play and see whether his game would transfer, and we just didn't get that in the big test matches.
But was
and
that the reservation of Razor, though? I don't know. Was it really Billy, or was that Razor not wanting to make too many changes?
Oh, it quite possibly have been that, but the fact that now we don't know. We're not any further along when he was at really good form and playing well. Played against Fiji, was outstanding. Did everything you could ask of a player in his first Test match for the All Blacks.
What do you think Razor does with him this year then? Do we see him more this year?
He's just started. He's just started his campaign in 2025. I don't know what Scott Robertson's got planned for any of his players because at the moment, a lot of them, and let's be honest, the last couple of weeks, I'll be fair, a lot of the All Blacks, a number have started to just ramp up a little bit. And I think you're seeing results as regard to that. You know, a lot of teams all of a sudden have got 7, 8, 9, 10 All Blacks in their environment, and their workload has been a little bit light, and they're starting to go, OK, now it's time to the business end.
Well, Tali, you've picked someone who's not an All Black, who has been a sensation.
I love watching this man play, and shame on me for taking him out of my fantasy team this week. I will not be doing that again. Kini Naholo. Oh, what a game from him against the Brumbies. 2 tries, 13 carries, 2 line breaks, and a game-high 11 defenders beaten and 160 metres. Defensively and offensively, he has been phenomenal for the Hurricanes. But this performance, and then Paul Lonergan is going to remember that for a very, very long time. But I just think he had such a great game, and you look at the scheme of things with wingers at the moment, Mark Telaire is off overseas. We haven't seen too much of Caleb Clark due to the way that the Blues play, and he's injured at the moment. Now is the perfect opportunity for him to start saying, hey, look at me.
Does he look like an international winger to you?
You know what? I want to see that for another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That is an international quality performance at Super Rugby,
Yep.
but consistency makes him stand out, and so we can see that. And there's a few like that.
Yeah, and I think that the challenge for the Hurricanes is it's why it's really important they make the playoffs for a lot of these players to get playoff performances, because as we know, that's where a lot of stock goes up. All of a sudden the pressure on, you've got 1 week to perform, and okay, you've made the semi-finals, then you made the finals. If they can stay in the fight, it just promotes players. The form starts to come.
And I think the Hurricanes might be the most inconsistent team. So I think their Waratahs game, they blew everyone out of the water, and everyone's like, the Hurricanes have arrived, and all of a sudden they dipped again. And then they put out a performance like that against the Brumbies.
Hold on, more inconsistent than the Blues this year?
I mean, they've been consistently bad, so I don't know.
That's true.
Oh, bad.
The only
3 games.
The only quick one on the Hurricanes is the fact that both wingers and the 13 are the ones scoring the points on the weekend. Just shows that everything's working. When it's those guys out wide and your back 3 scoring tries, as you'll know, you know everyone inside is doing all their job.
We're going to talk about the Hurricanes a little more in a moment as well. But my player of the round, if I had one, Wallace Satiti. Gutted I didn't put him in my fantasy team and make him my captain.
8-minute player of the round.
I had more time on the field than he did.
In 9 minutes of rugby, Taylor, give us his stats, because he was superb.
Oh, 7 carries and 56 metres, and he hit 6 rucks, had
Nearly
5
scored a try.
passes. I mean, it was crazy.
The return of this guy? I mean, Jeff, you said before he looks like an All Blacks number 8. I know you don't want to talk about Razor's plan for this year, but we're going to start talking about it if this guy continues to play that way.
If there's footage and you look at last year versus this year, he looks as though he's filled out a little bit. So he said the benefit of sometimes having an injury is that you get in the gym, you get a chance to grow in some areas. He looks a bit bigger across the chest, looks as though he'll be powerful and strong. It was what a great 9 minutes.
You must be nervous.
I'm always nervous. Well, you got another back rower, another one. It's not like you need any more. Look, what he did last year, consistently. Then he stepped up to international level, did it consistently. You're talking about body shape looking good. The chat out of the Chiefs camp is his attitude's been outstanding. He's back early from an injury. Everything there bodes well for 1, 2025, but 2, a great international career.
This is basically when he came into Super Rugby last year, remember, making his debut about midway through the season, so only a few games earlier, and he was such a standout for them towards the back end of the year. Cannot wait to see more of Wallace Satiti. We were talking about the Hurricanes. Well, look, they are back in the top 6, which means they are back in playoff contention with that ginormous win over the Brumbies in Canberra on the weekend. 3 Australian teams, 3 New Zealand teams in the top 6, Morgs. Does it stay like this?
Oh, well, that Hurricanes Brumbies result has changed a lot. I think now there's a decent chance. I still think the Blues can make it. The Canes will definitely make it. So much now revolves around some of where they play each other. Blues Force this week suddenly becomes must-win for both teams. I think the loser's in a lot of trouble.
What's the number you reckon that's going to make it?
I think 30, something low 30s is magic. I think 3 wins for the Blues and some bonus points might be enough.
You think the Blues make the top 6?
I think they can make it.
At whose expense?
At the Force and the Tars' expense is the danger. The Canes are going to make it. The Waratahs' issue is they've got the Crusaders and they've got the Reds at home. Haven't lost a game at home this year. If they can hold that form at home, they'll make it. But they're 2 good sides they've got to beat.
So for you, only 2 Australian teams. Only 2
If I was on an Australian TV show now, I'd say 3 and 3. You'd
say 4 Australians.
You do realise you guys take our show.
Yeah.
So it still plays over there.
Everyone keeps saying the Blues are done, and you got to tell me why are they? Why they're
no, we don't say they're done. No. We've been every week trying to work out how they get in because we see what they've got, right, Taylor? We see what they've got.
So much potential.
They've got the players at the moment. They haven't got that one performance which gives them the belief, and then they haven't managed to stay healthy. Bowden Barrett gets a bug. He still wasn't right on the weekend, and so he wasn't in a position to start when he's obviously clearly going to be one of their most influential players. The big thing I have is when I look at that table, though, we've got 2 teams that are cleared out. And the Crusaders they've separated themselves from the pack, and they've not done that just on the table. They've done that in terms of the quality of rugby they've played.
Yeah, the Chiefs and the Crusaders at the moment,
they're going to be tough to beat.
Far and above.
I think
the rest of the pack right now.
With their run home, I think they can still make it. The Blues, I think they can. They can.
They've got 3 they've got the easiest run, right? They've got 3 very winnables. They've got to go to Fiji and they have a bye. So the 3 very winnables, if they do that, they're still in charge of their own destiny.
Okay, well, I tell you what, a New Zealand team, as we've mentioned, won in Australia finally. It took 11 rounds of Super Rugby, but the Hurricanes finally got the job done for all Kiwis. Taylor, the stats are there and the numbers this year do not look pretty. Are the Australians just better? Or are we not travelling as well to Australia?
No, they have improved massively, and it goes down to going down to 4 teams and spreading out their talent amongst those 4 teams. 14% win rate, and I remember when I was here after round 5 and then I said the Australian teams are playing really good, everyone was like, talk to me at halfway point of the season. Well, we're heading into round 12 and the Australian teams are still doing very well. They have stood up and everyone knows it too. There's plenty of players in those Australian teams that I actually enjoy watching and I tune in to watch specifically.
I just commentary or
yeah, for the commentary, of course. No, I just really love the way some of the Australians are playing. I'm really loving Muirhead at the moment as well. He's one of my favourites.
Gee, you're critical, aren't you? I think we went 45 in a row once against you without winning a game, so this is nothing. The great thing is some of the tight games, Australians have won a couple of tight games. The big one for us too was the Brumbies being able to go to Eden Park and winning against the Blues, going the other way. Yeah. So I think definitely the quality of the Australian teams has improved.
Has the belief changed? Has the belief changed amongst the group from your perspective when you're there and they're playing against the New Zealand teams? Because quite often it's that confidence to go out, the belief you can win. Moana Pacifica have found that belief. Have the Australian teams, when they look across and go, you know what, we're actually good enough and deep enough to win this game?
Yeah, belief's a dangerous word too. There's belief now because of evidence, because they've got some good performance, because maybe other teams that you've beaten have done the same thing as well. So if they can beat them, we can too. It's demystifying some of the challenges he has been good this year. Does that belief roll into the Wallabies? And will James O'Connor be a Wallaby? Some reports this week were suggesting that he could become an All Black. No, that is not the case. He played for the Australian A team in 2023, which reset his eligibility. So he is not eligible for New Zealand, eligible for the Wallabies, and would like to play in the Lions series. Does he make the Lions squad for Australia?
Go on, Morgs.
Well,
break the news to him.
Well, no, to start with, I'd love to play the Lions as well. Everyone loves to play them.
You are playing them, Morgs. Yeah. We'll be watching the classics.
If he misses the Wallabies, I'll get him to play for the classic Wallabies. How's that? Look, there's a difference between making the starting 15 and making a big squad. I can see him being picked in a squad so that they can have a look at him. Once again, he needs to get the starting spot at the Crusaders and he needs to take them to a final. If he does that, well, you have to pick him.
Well, Taha Kemera is out now, so does that put him straight in as the Crusaders starting first 5?
Well, I would think so.
No, I don't think so.
You don't?
No, I think Rivers Reihana will take that role and they'll continue to use him as a closer. I think he really likes that role. Okay. If there was an opportunity for Australia, that would be the role. Yeah.
Jersey number 22.
Number 22 in terms of, I want someone who's been and played in big games, who's been to the level, who can handle the pressure. We saw him handle the pressure in Christchurch, a match-winning kick. I look at him and I see a confidence and a maturity. And I had a chat to him actually after the game last night. He was down in Dunedin. He was just there observing. I think he just keeps his role and he really loves that role. Could he play in that ANZAC team before against the British and Irish Lions to maybe give them an opportunity to look at him? Or
I think he's the perfect candidate for it, that's for sure. I'd hope he would, no matter what happens. We'd love to have him in that team. I think the interesting thing is the opinion in Australia is quite divided on James O'Connor because he had some troubles coming through. Outstanding footballer, thrust into the spotlight early, didn't cope with it well at times, right? The word you used is maturity. We've seen that from James O'Connor the last year, like a prodigious talent when he was young, unbelievably talented, right? His test debut against Fiji in Canberra was amazing and did some great things, but he's had his troubles along the way. What we're seeing is James O'Connor the man, not the kid that a lot of us remember. So if we're judging him on this season and the quality of his performances, he's got to be in the conversations. So you mentioned Tom Liner before. Who are your top 3 Wallabies 10s right now? Yeah, so the best 3 10s we have at the moment are Liner, Ben Donaldson and Noel Oloseo.
Now, they've mentioned they might not select Noel Oloseo, though, because he's heading offshore. Will they change their mind on that?
Yeah, I think if he plays well the next 6 to 8 weeks and he goes deep into a final series, you have to pick him. What's the most important thing in Australian rugby right now? Win the Lions series. Actually, win the first test of the Lions series. If you win the first test, you're going all the way to a decider, and rugby will be huge in Australia for that full month of July into the start of August. That's the key. Pick anyone you need to. James O'Connor, Karevi, Skelton, pick them all if you want. but it's about winning.
We're already buzzing about the Lions, but you seem far more fired up. How excited are you that this is coming to town? And it's not too far away either.
Yeah, my bags are packed. I'm ready to go on the
You're
road
on
for the
tour.
whole tour. Well, because that's the thing too. It's not just a test series, it's a tour.
Yeah.
Last weekend in June, they're playing the Western Force, and then we're on the road all the way, playing all the provinces, the Pacifica Indigenous team, and that Australian-New Zealand team.
So from what you've seen and the way Joe Schmidt's come in, he started to move some of the pieces around and he's given guys an opportunity, he's let some guys go, and you've seen some of the form and the way you're competing. I like what I see, because we've always said Australia can always put together 23, 25 guys that can get it right. Do you like? Is it enough to beat the Lions?
12 months ago, I would have said we cannot win the series. Now we can win the series. That's the work that's been done. Joe Schmidt has put in contact area work, breakdown area work, attitudinal work, some smarts around it. He's blooded some guys. We've got a pretty decent kid come across from rugby league who might be...
He's not bad.
Where's
he going to play?
Just a few things. Well, the great man Matt Burke wants him at 13, so I'm reticent to argue with him. Schmidt likes him there. I think 15's his best position, and it's what you want to do with Ikitau. Ikitau could be the best 13 in the world almost. Is he as good at 12? Do we have a viable 12 option? They're all answers.
Just in case you missed who we're talking about, Joseph Akuso-Suali'i, of course, the biggest star across rugby right now. He is the most talked about name. It almost seems criminal to talk about the next Wallabies coach and look beyond the Lions series, but we understand Morgs, and this almost feels like a Q&A of Morgan Turinui, but we understand the next Wallabies coach after Joe Schmidt, who's taking them to the Lions, will be unveiled this week. And there's only one man really that's been spoken about for the last few months, Les Kiss.
Yeah, I flew out Thursday and, mate, you flogged me here this weekend, so I haven't had time to get the update. When I left, the plan was that about midweek this week to make an announcement around the Wallaby coach. It hasn't been simple to get there. Les Kiss is the only person that's really been talked about in that head coach role. I understand there's lots to happen around support staff structures and things, but I think you can assume that Les Kiss will be announced as part of a Wallaby setup this week.
I was surprised to see, did Stephen Larkham rule himself out of the equation? Were you surprised to see that?
I think it was more the fact that it was probably obvious which way they were going to go.
And is it the right direction?
Well, I'm a bit biased. He coached me. I loved him as a coach at the Waratahs. I love the fact that he's gone and been a professional coach for 30 years.
Yeah.
He's at the end of it. What I'm always scared about is coaches having their first crack at international rugby with the Wallabies. And previously, you had to win Super Rugby to be a Wallabies coach. Knuckles, John Connolly did it in the late 90s with the Reds, and he eventually became Wallaby coach. But Eddie Jones became Wallaby coach, Michael Checker became Wallaby coach, Ewan McKenzie became Wallaby coach just after winning Super Rugby. Who knows, Les Kiss might do it this year. But it's always a risk when they're not internationally experienced. It's such a different role. And Razor's the best, brilliant. Even he's seeing, I would have thought, that it's slightly different than coaching your home province.
Do you think he's going to change much with the Wallabies and how they play?
I think that the way the Reds are trying to play is quite close to the way the Wallabies are trying to play. They're a little bit more expansive around what they're doing, the Reds, and a little bit less risk-averse perhaps than what you would do at Test footy.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty close. The Brumbies play quite differently to the Wallabies, as effective as it is. So I think part of it for Phil Waugh and the board has been what's the most seamless. What we've always done in Australia is start at zero. And we might not be talking All Black coaches, but you're in an interesting situation. This is the biggest upheaval in an All Black setup since the end of 2003, remember. You've gone Henry, internally to Hansen, internally to Foster. You brought someone from outside of that system, and there's always differences. So we're trying not to do that, which is what we've done for 20 years.
And I think I've seen the impact of Joe Schmidt in terms of the detail of the game and the individual performances and the way that they execute their roles, and collectively across all of the teams, you've seen that sort of growth in your game, and you're getting more and more like the old Wallaby teams where, let's be honest, you're very similar to New Zealand in terms of the capabilities. Every so often we've maybe just had a little bit of an edge up front, which we've used well, and we had a remarkable group for about 10 years, right, which was really hard to beat. 23 years or something. It's been a long time.
And
but
depth.
But you've started to build that, and when you've got some options. So, I really like what's happened in Australia in the last 12 months.
We've been full of praise for Australian rugby and the Wallabies today. You must feel right at home.
We just need to back it up on the field for you now.
Next 6 weeks will be massive.
I guarantee you, we're right behind you, 100%. We don't want the British and Irish Lions coming down here and winning.
No.
We don't.
mutually together we can succeed. We do, and we've talked about it right throughout this show, even from the beginning. We got to do this together.
Yeah.
We're isolated. We're together. We can help with our market in Australia and then the world as well as ours. There's 3 massive economies we can tap into in the future. We've just got to do it together.
Well, you mentioned coaches winning Super Rugby. Anyone would think this guy in Dunedin won Super Rugby over the weekend. Jeff, did you see his dance moves?
Oh, it's quality.
Live?
This is absolute quality right here.
This is entertainment.
That was actually, this was, I think, after the Highlanders scored, and then there was another one that came after the Crusaders scored. I think he was a bit confused about which team he was supporting, but I tell you what, he was into it.
He's actually got the moves.
Yeah, he has.
Oh, he's stunning. He's high on life. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what some of the Crusaders were doing in the Oxy after that game.
Yeah, they had a 3 a.m. curfew. Because they've got a
Only
bye week. 3 a.m. curfew back in the hotel. But they had a bye week this week, so Crusaders, I think, enjoyed Dunedin. Not as much as this guy. Look at that. He's like a magician.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Hoki Maiano, welcome back to the breakdown. Well, it is the squad that we have all been waiting for. The first Black Ferns squad of the year. 49 players have been selected and are in camp right now. Yes, you're laughing because it may seem like a lot of players, but it's incredible the depth in women's rugby in New Zealand right now because I don't think we could have picked that amount of players a few years ago. Taylor, these players only have 3 or 4 days in camp in front of the coaches to show what they've got before the squad is trimmed down to 32 for Pacific Four.
Oh, it is going to be so tough. And there are 7 newbies in there as well. Telfa Basin, I mean, she worked her way into that. Let's not forget, she didn't even have a Super Rugby Opiki contract up until the 4th round as injury placement, then commanded that 7 jersey for the Blues and won those titles. Braxton Sorensen-McGee is massive there too. I think we cannot miss her out of that team. She is a big star at fullback.
Can you explain the logic of 49? I know there's.
I know it's half of Opiki at this point. You know, you're
5 of them are at
if
the
you didn't
7th
make
tournament,
it.
right? 5 are at the 7th tournament. So I think 44 are in camp. I mean, what realistic opportunity have maybe 10 of these players got to impress and play their way into the team?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is they're having game scenarios this whole time to see who can play well, but I think there's an element of we actually do not know who our best 23 are, and that's why we've cast our net far and wide. When you look at England and France, they're coming off the back of 6 nations and they're really settled, and I think that's the biggest letdown for us is that we don't know who our teams are. The coaches will have a fair idea. They'll know, I think, roughly their starting 15, but in terms of the makeup of the squad, it is hard. I mean, this is the most skillful women's game I have ever seen today. 43-42 England won. That is their 4th back-to-back Grand Slam, back-to-back. They lost 1 line out, the whole 6 nations. And previously we used to say, oh, England, they're just going to score driving maul tries against us, they're heavy on their pack. Abby Dow and all of those backs were phenomenal. The skill level, as I said, was exceptional, but not even
How
just
far away are we from these 2 teams then, Taylor?
When you look at the Opiki skill level, I mean, that round 1, there were 75 turnovers. And yes, you could say because they don't train as much, but there's a big leap that we have to make, and I do genuinely believe there are women in that squad who can make it work, but we have to pick the right players and the selections are going to be massive, and it's too hard to decide because we've got all those 7s players coming.
Well, I was just going to ask you about one of those 7s players who, of course, announced her international retirement at the Olympics last year and is now back in contention, not as a winger, as a centre. It is a new challenge for her that she's taken up. I'm talking about Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe.
Yeah.
How much competition is there in the midfield and outside backs for these women right now, just to even make the squad?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you cannot leave out Aisha Letinga and Caitlin Vahakolo, and that's already 2 specialist wingers, and you can't have another specialist winger, in my opinion. And she has showed she's got versatility by going into centre, which means probably someone like Ruby Tui has to miss out because you cannot drop...
On the squad?
Yeah, on the squad, because you cannot drop Amy Duplessis, who was the best player in Opiki, and that's in the midfield. You're going to take Teresa and Stacey, and so you're going to have to drop an outside because you have to still take Renee Holmes a fullback. It is tough to pick who is going to make the squad.
All I'd say is that you have to have philosophy in some ways, the fact that you're going to throw some new people in there and swing for the fences and go, we've got the benefit of having 4 or 5 games in terms of preparation, get them up to speed as quick as we can and then surprise the opposition. The trouble is you've got round robin games, you've got pool games, and you get a chance to see what everyone's doing. Morgs, I'm not sure that's the best way about it. What about the Wallaroos, though?
They're going to do the same.
Are you going to do the same? Your 7s players come in and make a difference?
Well, there's a couple. Charlotte Caslick and Tia Hines will probably make their test debut against Fiji in a couple of weeks' time. The Wallaroos are in camp right now in Canberra, so they're having that block of time together as well. Not as big a squad as New Zealand have. Looking at the form line, right? I've been watching women's rugby in France for 15 years. That's the best performance by the French national team I've ever seen,
Yeah.
and they still didn't beat England. There's a massive margin New Zealand need to get to. You've got the cattle to get there, that's for sure.
100%.
You've got to be smart about how you do it. And the Wallaroos were another step behind you. So the benchmark is so far away that you may have to try something. If you go with what's been okay and what's worked before, you're probably going to come up short.
That's why I think Braxton makes it. She is so young and impressive. I think she does make that team. The other one too is those sevens players, because they're so skillful around the park, you know, because everyone has to be a jackler in sevens, everyone has to tackle. So I think we might see someone like Dice make it, who probably wouldn't have been a shoo-in beforehand, but I think her versatility gets her there.
Thursday, that squad is officially cut down and named from 49 to 32. So we'll be able to dissect that all on the breakdown next week. But coming up, do not miss the LA Sevens. It is the season finale this weekend with Michaela Blyde and the crew all coming to you live from Los Angeles. They have already won the series, but they didn't win this tournament last year, so they're very hungry heading into this weekend. Round 12 of Super Rugby. Morgs, what's the game we need to watch?
Oh, it's a local derby that we have. Brumbies versus the Waratahs.
Who wins that
Canberra.
game?
Brumbies should be fine at home. They'll bounce back
You
from that
reckon?
disappointment last night.
Taylor, for you?
I'm going to be in the Octi busting those moves like that other guy. So I'm going to be with Highlanders, Moana Pacifica, because whoever loses that game, they're out.
That's a big one. That is a big game.
It's big for the Hurricanes and Chiefs, because the Hurricanes, if they get some momentum and they start to roll, they're going to be really, really dangerous. And the Chiefs could be without Damien McKenzie.
So, Hurricanes for you?
Yes, the Hurricanes for me.
Okay, good to know. Morgs, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely brilliant. Next week, 5:30, we are on air straight after the Highlanders taking on Moana Pacifica. We'll see you then.